So I spent last week in a beautiful little beach town called Seaside, Florida. If you've heard of it, you know, okay? Like I got to watch the sunset every single night on the beach, time to just kind of relax and breathe, right? And when I got home, gosh, I was missing my sewing machine so much. And so while I was gone, I kind of thought, I want to make this quilt. Before I had left, I'd done the unboxing. I loved it. I was ready to do whatever it took to make this quilt. And I actually brought like the instructions with me on vacation because I wanted to know exactly what was happening in this quilt so I could put it together as soon as I got back home. I mean, really and truly, can I finish this entire quilt top in a weekend? I guess we shall see, right? Now, I fell in love with the pattern when I first learned about it, but I am loving it even more now because it's not a whole lot of relearning or like having to go back and sit down and read the pattern and relearn how to do something else. This is very, very simple in terms of skills that I already know how to do. And the pattern itself is for an experienced beginner. Do you see that? Experienced beginner skill level. So you probably already know how to do these things too. So yeah, I'm really excited to sit down this weekend. I'm going to spend some time with my sewing machine and we're going to get this quilt knocked out. We're sewing the half square triangle blocks 8 at a time, which is a very beginner level skill, right? 8 at a time. It makes it really, really easy. So here's the 8 at a time method. You do lines diagonally and then vertically and horizontally on your block. I draw these in with my friction marker. And then as you can see here, you sew a 1/4 inch on either side of the diagonal lines. It takes a little bit of time, but it's really, really a simple skill. And then after you get all of your blocks drawn and sewn, you go through with your rotary cutter and you just chop on all of those lines. You cut through your fabrics, make it nice and easy, straight cuts, because you still want to keep your pieces at the right size and the finished size that you want them to be at. But this is how you make 8 half square triangles at a time. And we're going to take that and we're going to multiply it times different size blocks, but using the same skill. And I should have these blocks done by the end of the day. I think at least laid out by the end of the day, because if you remember, this is what the quilt looks like, right? So there's like, if you look at it this way, like there's a block right here. And I'm kind of trying to look here at the screen and show you too. There's a block right here that has like a colored center, right? And then the block right next to it, if you're thinking in like a grid pattern, right? There's 2 blocks and that's the whole quilt. Those 2 blocks, and then you flip them down below and flip it down again. See, this right here is the same. And so you're learning 2 blocks and you're repeating those skills over and over and over again. And this is what gives that illusion of all of these pieces coming together and all of this color and all of this work. But really, when it comes down to skill level, it's the same skills over and over and over again. So this is my kind of quilt. Looks complicated, looks absolutely fantastic when it's done, but break it down, right? It's not that hard. So I'm going to go sew. We'll see what happens. And I will chat with you guys in a little bit. Okay. So I did have a little bit of a, I don't know what to call it, overconfidence moment. I've been sewing for a while, and I've talked about this before. When I do my sewing, I organize all of my pieces in the very beginning. I put them in little baggies or with clips and everything on them so that they stay organized and I'm not having to refer back to my pattern every single time I want to do a step or every single time I want to grab a piece. I already know what's going on and which packet or which little bundle or whatever you want to call it to grab. And I goofed. I goofed, and let me show you right here where I goofed. That way, when you make this pattern, you won't make the same mistake. Here is the block. The pieces are all done and ironed down. This is the first one that I'm putting together. I haven't sewn it together or anything yet, but I'm just putting in the pieces so I can make sure that I have them all here. However, got a little bit too confident in my pieces right here, and this one, as you can see on the picture over here, is right. This one
should be over here and this one should be over here. So I have a little bit of unpicking out to do and resewing of these two pieces right here in order to get these to match up.
So I guess like in reality, you could say that it's not like a mistake. It's more of like a choice. And that's terminology that quilters like me use when we're like, how bad do I want to go back and fix all those blocks? So my blocks might be a little bit different than those in the final quilt pattern and the way that it was intended. However, it's my quilt. Is this quilt going to show up on some gorgeous quilt show with all the other quilts that were made with this quilt kit? No. Is anybody going to know that there was that mistake there except for me and you now, because I just told everybody that I made that mistake? No. I may send a message to the pattern designer and go, I messed up on your quilt, sorry. I did go back, as you saw, and I had to fix all those little, I had to unpick all of those because I could not make it fit right, and I wasn't going to make it a glaring error, right? The way that it is right now, the way that you're seeing it right now on the screen, that is not a glaring error, okay? The only reason that you know that that pink and those two pinks at the bottom are swapped is because I told you that they're swapped, right? So, it's cool. We're just going to move on. I'm going to keep sewing. I'm really enjoying this. I'm losing a little bit of daylight here. It was just when I was putting those initial pieces together that I've got my pink swapped and mixed up. And now my other pieces are ready to go. And now it's corrected. And then I have the B block right here that is all set up, ready to go. I like to lay my pieces out in this manner because as I'm sewing the blocks, I am going to chain piece them together. Now, if you are not familiar with chain piecing, and you are what you would consider like a beginner, intermediate, somewhere in there quilter, this is something that you need to learn, okay? And it's not hard. It's actually quite simple, and it is a really, really good organizational method for quilting, and I highly, highly, highly suggest that you pick it up. I have a video on it. If you want to learn more about it, I will link it across the top of the screen. I'll also put it in the description box, along with all of the other links that you need for this video. You can always find them down in the description box down below. So this is what chain piecing looks like, okay? So as you might be able to tell in the video over there, there is a little bit of space in between each one, and I am taking the first piece and the second piece, like column wise, and I'm sewing them together, and then I'm going to go all the way down the row, and for each one of those first and second columns. Then I'm going to add in column 3, and I'm going to go each one all the way down, and it's a lot. You end up making these like long chains, which is what you get the chain piecing from, right? But it keeps your pieces in order so that I am not having to like sew all 4 together and then sew 4 together and then try and make them fit. So that way works too. You want to go with what makes sense to you. But I personally like the chain piecing method because I'm able to nest my seams better while I'm chain piecing. So even though I have, like, let's say piece 1 and 2 sewn together, when I go and I sew it to the piece underneath it, I can make sure that those seams line up perfectly. The pattern, I will say, suggested to iron your seams open. I did not do that. I don't like to do that. That was a choice on my part, and I didn't do it. I ironed it to the side, and I prefer ironing my pieces to the side, or to like the dark side in most cases, because it's just easier for me. But I think I am just about done for today. I'm going to leave those seams and these pieces to do for tomorrow. Am I kidding? I might sew one together tonight and then I'll sew the rest of them together tomorrow, but this is coming along really nice and I'm happy with it. So fingers crossed, time is on my side tomorrow and I will get to do this all again and have some good time with my sewing machine tomorrow. So yay. Yeah, we'll call it good. So I hope that you have a good day. I'll see you again in just a little bit. So I know I said I was going to stop after I did like one block and then I was going to be good and I was going to go to bed for the night. Whatever. I'm come back and I started chain piecing my blocks together and I realized that I have missed a key step in this pattern. And while it does not say it on the actual pattern paper here, it does
allude to it several times, and I want to show you a difference in this. So when you're making half square triangles, especially when you're working with pre-cut blocks, okay, this piece right here, actually that's the back, here's the front. This is a pre-cut piece. This came in at 3.5 by 3.5, okay, inches. This is a piece that I made when I made the 8 half square triangles at a time. Now, I am really accurate with my seams most of the time, okay? I mean, to the point where I would like say I'm really good at like straight seams. I don't have a big problem with it. I sew them all the time. But as I was chain piecing these together, I began to notice something, and that is, most oftentimes I go back and I trim these little ears off because it's bulk fabric inside your quilt that you don't really need there, and it does kind of get in the way when you're trying to like nest seams and things. But what I noticed about this is this right here. Do you see all around here that my piece that I put together is not 3.5 inches? No. So, and this is totally normal for like a quilt kit piece, okay? So in order to make sure that this piece is perfect, this one right here is what I'm talking about, because this is 3.5 inches. Now in the pattern, it does say that you should come up with, hold on, I had it a second ago. Here it is. You're going to end up with 60 3.5 inch square half square triangles. Okay. And that's all the different colors that we have that were in my pattern here that I showed you earlier, or my blocks here earlier. But these ones and these ones all use that same 8 half square triangles at one time block, right? You know, it'd be really, really smart to go in and trim these down perfectly to 3.5 inches, because if I don't, my block is going to come up and the pieces are not going to match. I may have to like fudge the seams a little bit. And I've come to this point in my quilt making journey before where I will say, let's just go with it or whatever. But I want to bring this up to you while I'm working on this quilt, because I'm spending all this time working on this quilt, money to buy the quilt in the first place and all the pre-cut patterns, and to invest in this gorgeous pattern that I know is going to turn out so beautifully. If I don't take the steps to trim the pieces correctly now and actually get the right size pieces that I'm working with, I will be frustrated later on. Like there is no doubt in my mind that I will be frustrated later on. So I'm going to take the time right now and I'm going to trim these pieces. It is just a tiny, tiny bit that will go on all 4 sides. But if you have a cutting mat that has like the rotate ability to it, or you put your cutting mat on top of like a Lazy Susan or something else that spins, it's so much easier that way to get the right cuts that you need, okay? So I'm going to go trim all of these pieces and then probably going to call it a night for tonight, because I should get some rest. But that was just something I need to point out, is like these little things like trimming these pieces. Nobody wants to square up their blocks and all of that, but you're going to be looking at this quilt for a long time, and you're either going to be proud of it and be like, I love the way those seams come together, it's perfect, or you're going to be like, and right there, and right there, and right there, and right there is where I messed up. And let's not have the latter one be your reality, right? And so I'm going to take the time, I'm going to square up these blocks, make them 3.5 inches by 3.5 inches, and be ready to sew on them tomorrow. It is the end of Sunday night here, and this is not quite how I thought that my weekend was going to turn out. We had some unexpected stuff come up this weekend, but this is what I have together so far for the quilt. Do you see all the pretty blocks in there? I am loving this quilt. I'm in love with this quilt so much. But these are the only blocks that I was able to put together this weekend. I have all of the other blocks. I still have them, like they're put together. They are chain pieced together, but I did not get all of the blocks. So I mean, honestly, truthfully, I only have like maybe a couple hours of sewing left to get the rest of the blocks together. Then I'll piece the whole top together. And this quilt kit actually came with the backing too. So really, I don't have a ton of stuff left to do. I did not get it all done in one weekend like I wanted to, but I love that. Do you see like the intricacy of those blocks and how beautiful they are? And you saw how simple it was for me to put together, right? Like you saw the geniusness behind the pattern and everything. Like I am loving it. I love that everything was pre-cut for this pattern. I probably won't get this on my long arm machine this week. It probably will be maybe closer to the end of the week or next weekend, but I'm really looking forward to it because it's gonna be a gorgeous one. And this quilt right here, it's mine. It's not going anywhere else. It's mine. So I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your week. I'm Kristen with ICStarsQuilting.com, and I'll see you next week. Have a great weekend. Bye.